What's happening, everyone? Today we are working on some subfloor repairs and replacement, as well as some framing. If you take a look here, we removed most of the wall separating the kitchen and the bathroom. The joists have been repaired, and now we're going to replace the subfloor that we took out and rebuild this wall and that corner over there to get ourselves ready for electrical and for plumbing. So I've got all my tools here with me, rented a framing nailer and a laser level, and we're gonna get started. I'm actually showing some footage from the night before we did the subfloor repair. I'm just taking apart the existing hardwood floor that was there in preparation for some of the contractors to come in and do the work. Special shout out to Portillo Construction, who did our joist repair. They lifted and sistered 3 or 4 of the foundation joints here that you'll see and did a pretty good job all in a day. So I'll put their information in the description. One of the main reasons we had Portillo come out to do the foundation repairs is because the floor had to be jacked up a couple inches to re-establish a level floor. The middle of the house had sank because of the rotting of the wood where the tub used to be, and the 3 joists that they're repairing, significant mold. Some of them had already been cut a few times improperly, and so we wanted to make sure we got the job done right. We're looking now, I am installing new subfloor panels. So I stripped away the old wall, it was not load bearing, and I am putting new subfloor in. It's 3/4 panel plywood. The actual older hardwood floor is 7/8, but that's not readily available, so we're gonna have to do this as multiple layers and install some support beams underneath between the joists to accommodate, since this is I think a 24-inch spacing between joists. If you look here, I just marked out with chalk the center lines of where the joists are, and then I'm using deck screws, 3-inch deck screws every 8 inches because the internet says so. I also made a couple mistakes here the first run and did not put those support joists in, so I had to lift up the floor to get that done. You know, I'd say all in, it's not that difficult to do, just a lot of measuring, cutting, some hard labor. The tools themselves, the nail gun as well as the compressor, was $65 for the day from Home Depot. You know, so I had it essentially for a full 12-hour workday, and it's worth it. A frame nailer is about $400, and a compressor is another couple $100. So I think we'll end up purchasing one, but if you're doing a one-time project, you can just rent it really quickly. These little spacer pieces I'm putting in, these are 1/4 inch, I think it's called lattice. They're typically used for making like fence structures, but they're used all over this house between the joist and the hardwood floor, or that first subfloor for some reason. And so I had to go buy some and use them to level out and get to the right height throughout the subfloor. And it doesn't help that because the house was sagging for so long, you know, about 10 feet in any directions, the level of the floor changes. So the amount of that material I need is kind of subjective, and I had to go one at a time, one joist at a time, and make sure it was making proper contact. So this last hole I am prepping for the last piece of sub panel, but I'm not actually going to close it up. The plumber will need access to this area of the home, and rather than have them shimmy from the wall all the way to the interior, we're gonna have them use this access hole for now, and then when all the plumbing is done, then I'll close up the subfloor. I have just enough of what space I need to get a new replacement wall going. So as you can see here, I'm laying out all the material and determining the best way to join it, I guess, to the existing construction. The interesting thing about working on a home built in the 1910, 20, 30s like this one is it's not using 2x4 lumber for the framing. It's actually half an inch smaller, so more like a 2x2.5 in reality. That means that when you join up 2x4 when you're framing to an existing wall, you're going to have to build up the older sections of wall into 2x4 later on. So, I'm adding this new wood for a 2x4 wall here, knowing that the end section closer to the living room, I'll have to build up with half-inch thick, I guess, lattice or half-inch thick strips to give the right thickness so I can lay down the drywall. What you see me here doing is marking out 16 on center so I can adhere to, basic construction principles. All these things that I'm talking about, I pretty much learned in the last few days. So very simple to look up framing instructions online, figure out the generally accepted methods of building a wall, and then just going and doing it. When you're working on an older home, everything is not lining up or does not line up the way you think it would with new construction. So each of these pillars, I guess, part of the frame, had to be individually measured because they were off by maybe 1/4 to a 1/2 inch from the front to the back of the wall. And that's because, it's been 100 years or 90 years that things moved around a lot. And so if I didn't cut each piece to size, it was not going to fit. So the course of all this framing, I realized that I don't like crouching on the floor to cut all my lumber. And so I had the framing nailer for another 1.5 hours, so I figured I'd build myself a workbench. This one I got off the internet. I'll link it in the description below. It's just the fastest way to build a workbench possible. I did it 33 inches in height, 4 feet wide and 2 feet deep. And I probably used more wood than I needed to, but I had a lot of scrap and a couple leftover 2x4x12s, and I really needed to get off of my back and get into a more comfortable position. So this is me building as fast as I possibly can before I have to return the equipment to Home Depot. That's about it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel or hit the like button. You can also set up notifications so you know when the next video comes out. I'm trying to get videos released as soon as a major work item is completed, and your support is always welcome to help motivate me to get the next video out there. Let me know in the comments if you want to see different type of content, some different explanations for the work that we're doing, or let me know how things are going. I'm doing this for the first time, so I'll take any advice that I can get. Thanks a lot.